This is the very official Mario game that you've probably played a million times, right? Here's Mario in his best kung fu outfit, kicking frogs in half and destroying samurais, because Mario's a black belt now, and this is the very official game that's on the very official Souljagame video game console that, by the way, will run you on his website from $150 to $200. This is one of the 800 games offered on the Soulja console. What this really is not an official, obviously, Mario game. This is a hacked version of a Jackie Chan game that came out in the 90s that puts Mario's face over, you guessed it, Jackie Chan. The Soulja console was super interesting to me because it was so expensive for what it sounded like we were getting. It was out of nowhere, totally out of the blue announcement. Here is a new video game console, and it made waves. So of course, I, being a smart consumer and a gamer, a hardcore gamer, I had to have the Soulja console, and it is so much worse than I think anybody ever could have imagined. This is the Soulja Boy game console. This thing that looks like a really small Xbox One X. This is what that is. Now, if the Xbox One S had maybe, I don't know, shrunk in size and also became entirely useless, that's what this would be. I don't know if you can tell by me holding this how light this actually is, because there's essentially nothing in here. This box, which includes 2 USB ports on the front of it and an HDMI on the back, as well as regular aux ports on the backside, doesn't come with its own power supply. That's right, you have to get your own power supply, and is essentially about as big of a rip-off console as I've ever seen in my life. Have you ever walked into Bed Bath & Beyond and seen one of these on store shelves? That is all this is. So let's take a look at what exactly this does and what exactly the real problems with it are. And by the way, if you're looking for the box, yeah, that's that as well. In fact, if we're gonna get real particular about things, this controller on the bottom of the box, yeah, that's not even the controller that the system comes with. That's right, it's not even the controller in the box. So let's get started. In here is probably, I didn't count, but somewhere around 800 games. That much I believe. You have games that run from the GBA to the Game Boy Color to the PlayStation 1 and everything in between. You have Neo Geo games, you have original Game Boy games, you have a lot here. You have your classics like Crash Bandicoot and Super Mario Land and all the things that you'd expect to get out of an emulator or expect to download from an emulator online, you're probably going to see here. The problem is that even if you treat this new video game console as a retro machine and as an emulation machine, it is still totally abysmal. Soulja Boy, as some of you know, is apparently a hardcore gamer. He's a big gamer. I don't even like that term. He's just a gamer in general. And he got into a tech company, and essentially what he's reselling here is a system you can already buy for $80 on Amazon for $200 and just putting his face on it. This is just a retro emulator you could probably find in Bed Bath & Beyond, as already mentioned. And so, with that being said, I dove into this expecting, at the very least, a fun emulation experience. That is not what you're going to get here either. This is garbage. First off, it doesn't matter what game you play, and this is a big deal. You are not going to get the experience you would have gotten if you had played that game on its original console, which, by the way, is the point of emulation for the most part. To emulate the experience of playing that game as it originally was. That will not be what you have here. Every single game suffers from extreme graphical issues. I'm talking about screen tearing every 10 seconds. I'm talking about lost frames, which I've been getting. I mean, literal frame dropping in a game. It's absurd. Most of the time, your sound is not going to be synced with your video. And I don't mean in the way where it's like, give it a second to catch up to the cutscene. I mean, there's a literal 1 to 2 second lag in most games between the audio and the video experience. So if you're playing Aladdin and you hop on a thief, you're going to hit that thief, and about 2 seconds later, after you've jumped 2 times onto 3 different platforms, you'll hear the toing that you get when you hit something in the game. It is insane. Now, there's a different problem that comes with all this emulation as well, which is that yes, none of it runs well, but also it seems like the people that put this system together have either A, never touched any of these games before, or B, have absolutely no knowledge of game history whatsoever. I mean, there are a ton of games on here that are not games at all, that are things like Kung Fu Mario, that are just hacks of games that did at one time exist as legitimate products. But there's even weirder stuff going on with these 800 games. Sometimes you'll come across a game like Spider-Man, for example, like an NES Spider-Man game, and you'll get a movie poster. Not the game poster, which a lot of these games have. You'll get the movie poster for Spider-Man 2. Or you'll come across a Planet of the Apes game and it'll be the War for the Planet of the Apes film poster. I mean, just the strangest stuff going on with this console. Things that you don't really expect to see. Even other things like when you go into the main menu, which is as bare bones as humanly possible, by the way. Don't hope for any settings here. Almost every game looks weird and tinted, and there's no way to change the display of these things. But even when you go into the main menu, and let's say you want to play a PlayStation 1 game, you click on PS1, and there's only one game there, which is a Soccer Superstars game, which actually is quite fun if you played the original game, but not here. You go into that and you get this nothingness. But if you go into SD card, well, there's all the PS1 games. It's very weird. And there are other problems with this system too. For example, as I already showed, the actual controller for this system is not even the one on the back of the box. The one on the back of the box is very DualShock-esque. It looks like a PS2 controller. This is not that. This is a very flimsy, light product that you could essentially throw up and down 50 feet in the air, and it would break in the air. It wouldn't break from hitting the ground. It would break in the air from the wind. It is the worst controller you could possibly use. The second I used the one controller that I used for most of my time playing it, it immediately stuck. The D-pad buttons all individually stuck, one by one. It was very confusing, not to mention the fact that it's a wired controller that's essentially featureless. But it's things like that that make these consoles a problem for gaming in general, right? The emulation community is a great community. A lot of these people are focused on preserving games, on making sure that people can play these experiences, and this is just a nightmare. It's just a strange nightmare. As for the system itself, as you've already seen, it's really nothing more than a 1 pound paperweight. It doesn't have a power supply. It's got one button on the front, which, by the way, is the only way to change games that I have found. The only way to change games is to literally turn the entire power of the system off and quit out entirely, and then turn the system back on using that one button on the system, and then pick a different game. It's really crazy how little there is here, and what's more insane to me is that from all accounts, everything that I have seen over the years, Soulja Boy, despite being some one-hit wonder hip-hop artist, has been savvy with his business decisions. He has made a lot of money that have nothing to do with what he did 10 years ago. This is illegal. Let me be very clear about that. This is illegal. There is no legality to this system. Now, I also want to be clear about something else. You're not breaking the law by buying it. It is totally legal for the end consumer to purchase the emulated games on this system, or purchase the system itself. You as the consumer are not legally liable, even though the games themselves are illegal. The person that is liable is the person selling the emulation. It's the same thing with downloading illegal music. In a lot of states, you're not breaking the law by downloading the illegal music, but if you illegally put music up for others to download, if you are the distributor, you are breaking the law. Soulja Boy, or really the company distributing this console, is in violation of the law. The likelihood at this point, having this blown up, of them not getting shut down is slim to none. The only hope is that this is a Chinese system, and boom, it is a Chinese knockoff system, so there's a lot of problems going into international territory there. But don't worry about buying it. Just don't buy the console. This is not worth your money. This is not worth your time. There's nothing intriguing here. There's nothing endearing about it. It's not a cool collector's item. It's funny if you've already purchased it to keep it, but other than that, please, for the love of God, do not buy this. There's a huge problem with these consoles and emulation recently that I'm going to talk about later this week, but do not buy the Souljagame console. Any of them. Not the $400 one on his website, not the $200 one on his website. None of them. Well, guys, that is it for today's video about whatever you want to refer to this as. I originally thought it would be kind of humorous to make this entire video an advertisement for this, but I was afraid that the internet would think I was serious, so I went with this more analytical approach instead. Honestly, this is something I'm glad I own, kind of, because It's just about the weirdest thing I've ever seen a celebrity do when it comes to gaming. But by the same token, please, for the love of all things holy, do not spend your money on this. Anything that comes in here, if you're this is illegal to begin with, by the way. Everything on this thing is illegal. So if you're going to break the law to play something, which you're not really doing here because you're the end consumer, fun fact, by the way, you're not violating the law by buying this and playing these games. The person selling them is the one in violation of the law. Thank you, law school. If you're going to emulate something, do it in a way that's better, which is literally every other way. Honestly, I will talk later this week about the PlayStation Classic, which has its own problems, but this makes pretty much every retro console look like a next generation console. So keep that in mind. As always, I want to know what you guys think about this thing, the Souljagame. He also has a bunch of other consoles on his website, like I mentioned, so don't buy those either. They're not worth your money or time. But what do you think about, I guess, emulation in general, and about these kind of systems that take all of these emulated games and an emulation software and throw them all together and sell them in a box for $150, $200? You know, do you think that something like this could be good if done right, or is this about as good as it's going to get and it's not worth your time or energy as long as you have any computer ever? Let me know the answers to any of those questions down in the comments below. Let's have a real conversation. As always, if you enjoyed this video, hit that like button. I put out videos that are absolutely nothing like this, twice, sometimes 3 times a week. So hit subscribe so you don't miss any of those. Quick update. The rest of the week is going to see a lot more stuff coming. A new Murdered Of will be coming, I think, the day after you see this. So keep an eye out for that, as well as a couple more videos as I kind of wind this year down. So look forward to those. And until next time, guys, I'm out.